we're about to hit September. And what that means is that the summer of 2022 is almost over. Right around September is when the seasons begin to transition from summer into autumn/fall. Now, I want to do this video here to discuss what happened 10 years ago in the summer of 2012, because I think based on what I cover on this channel, the kind of movies that I cover on here, 2012, the summer of 2012, when it comes to big superhero epic films, was one of the biggest and most historic summers of all time. And I think some of you guys don't remember, or maybe you're too young to remember, but I'm sure some of you guys really remember what was going on. And I'm talking about the summer of 2012 and the three big comic book movies that had a major impact on the industry and where things are going to go. I'm talking about in May, they released Avengers, the first Avengers from 2012, which I think because of what Endgame and Infinity War and Civil War did in the upcoming films, I think a lot of folks are actually forgetting how good the original Avengers was and still is. The movie holds up. I think the film still holds up. And then that was in May. And that was a big deal because the original Avengers, before all these crossover films and all this stuff that MCU was doing where it became kind of normal, the Avengers was like the culmination. You had four other films. You had Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Captain America, and Thor. And they all came out within a couple years span, 2008, 2011. And then in 2012, we finally got the Avengers. And this was a plan since the post-credit scene of Iron Man, the first one. And that's what began the formula. It's kind of become commonplace now. But y'all have to remember, 10 years ago, this was not commonplace. This was a new thing. And although the MCU is not the first cinematic universe in history, it's still an important idea that has been tried, has been attempted to be copied by everyone. Kevin Feige took what had been done with franchises like Godzilla, franchises like the Universal Monsters, even Kevin Smith's View Askew universe, and even stuff like a lot of television shows, how they're written, and applied it to theatrical films where you had individual stories and then eventually you had all those characters who were introduced in those individual stories coming together for Avengers. Oh, I forgot to mention Iron Man 2. Let's not forget Iron Man 2. So, The Avengers is a film that I think still holds up. I love the story of how they got together, the importance, the fact they couldn't get along, and then they had to team up, of course, against Chitauri and Loki, and of course the mid-credit scene showing Thanos and beginning the Infinity Saga without them even knowing it would be. So I think The Avengers still stands the test of time as being a very important film and a great film. Now, the next film that I want to talk about came out in July. Remember, July. That was Amazing Spider-Man. Now, I'll admit, of these three movies I'm going to talk about, I did not go see Amazing Spider-Man because at first, when I first heard about it, I thought it was going to be basically like a prequel or some kind of not a prequel, that's the wrong word, but like the next Spider-Man film. But then when the trailer, Spider-Man 4, trailer came out, it was a reboot. And the trailer didn't really capture me. I'll be honest, the trailer for this movie just did not hook me. And I wasn't going to the movies that often back then, so I skipped this one. I didn't get to watch this film until I got the Blu-ray. But I think The Amazing Spider-Man 2, The Amazing Spider-Man, not 2, The Amazing Spider-Man from July of 2022, or 2012, I'm fucking up a lot, from July of 2012, this film I think was very much underappreciated for a long time. And I think after Spider-Man No Way Home, when they were able to take the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, when they were able to basically bring him back, give him a little bit more purpose, let Andrew Garfield show his charisma, I think that helped the character. I think that Spider-Man No Way Home was so powerful that it actually made the Amazing Spider-Man movies better. It made them easier to watch because we knew where the story was going and really made it work. It basically made it work. I did not see this movie. And out of the three films, it was the one that was the most slept on, like I mentioned. And it's kind of crazy to think about that because we're talking about Spider-Man. But you have to remember, And a lot of folks, if you weren't around back then, you might not remember. But Spider-Man 3, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 3 from 2007, that movie really hurt the Spider-Man franchise. Like, a lot of people shat on that movie. It did not get a lot of love. I know that nowadays the movie does have a following. People have learned to appreciate it more now. But Spider-Man 3 was seen as a huge letdown when it came out, and it put the Spider-Man franchise on ice. This was its reboot. And really, The Amazing Spider-Man, which I have reviewed here on the channel, I reviewed all the Spider-Man films last year as we were building up to the release of No Way Home. This movie, I think that what they did with No Way Home helped it. Had they not done that, I feel like this Spider-Man reboot, this entire universe, would have been forgotten. I really feel like it would have been just something that happened that didn't really stick. Kind of like the mid-2000s Fantastic Four movies, which I did like a lot, at least the first one. But they're not very memorable. Nobody talks about them anymore. You know, it's like they came and went. Then you have the third movie, which is The Dark Knight Rises. Out of the three films, this is the one I look forward to the most, and it had a lot to do. So the Avengers had a lot riding on it, right? It was the beginning of the Marvel crossovers. But The Dark Knight Rises was the finale of the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, and it was the sequel to The Dark Knight, which at the time, and probably even to this day, is the most celebrated Batman, I would say the most celebrated superhero movie of all time. People have made so much content, whether it be podcasts, YouTube videos, or whatever, because of The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight, I remember on IMDb was listed as being the fourth best movie of all time. Listen, I love that movie, but it ain't the fourth best movie of all time. But that should tell you how powerful the movie was, so to follow it up would be difficult. Dark Knight Rises came out. I loved The Dark Knight Rises. I'll never forget going to the movie theater and sitting in the front row and the crowd reaction, like the scene where Batman first appears in the film, which is about 20 minutes into the movie, when you see like the bicycle under the train, they play the song, got a bunch of claps and cheers. Like, dude, I love this movie. Is it as good as Dark Knight as a film? Probably not. There's a lot of weird stuff in it, a lot of stuff that can be made fun of, but I also think this movie gets a very bad rap. There's people who are constantly comparing it to The Dark Knight, and I think that's unfair. Yes, there's some problems with the movie. We never found out how the hell Batman, when he escaped from the pit, got all the way back to Gotham. I don't really understand that. How he got his weaponry again, I don't really understand that. It wasn't shown on screen. It's not a big deal, but there are things about the movie that hurt it. Although The Dark Knight also has a couple of moments that have logic holes. But The Dark Knight Rises took Bane, played by Tom Hardy, and made him this huge, threatening, physical foe for Batman to beat. And the first fight with them in the underground sewer was just incredible, yo. And then don't even forget like the dialogue, peace has made you weak, victory has defeated you. Like, he is whooping up on Batman. We've never seen Batman take that kind of thrashing in any of these movies, including even the ones before this one. Even the Schumacher or the Batman Tim Burton films, he didn't take a beating like this ever. He broke his back. It was beautiful, and the film has that awesome ending, and it just caps off this trilogy that I still love. Like the Dark Knight trilogy, people put so much emphasis on The Dark Knight. Batman Begins, again, not a perfect film, but when you look at the trilogy as a whole, I think it works. I think you could say The Dark Knight's the best one if you want, and that's fair. That's a fair opinion. But the whole trilogy, I think, works. And in some ways, Batman Begins is slept on. But out of the three movies that I saw, Avengers, Dark Knight Rises is the one that really, stuck with me, because I loved this, Batman trilogy, and it's the one that I was most hyped for. The Avengers, I enjoyed it, but it really grew on me the more times I watched it. The first time I saw it, I didn't hate it. It was a good movie. But the more times I saw it later on through my revisits of the MCU and watching the different films and going through the catalog and revisiting Avengers, I feel like it got better and better and better. And it's still it gets me emotional when I watch it because, we don't have Chris Evans or Robert Downey there to play Iron Man and Captain America in the movie, but this, that ending with the tower and the music, and it just, the Avengers were so triumphant, and things got so dark, with Endgame and Infinity War, and now with the Kang storyline. Back then, it was such a lighthearted, happy film with a beginning, middle, and end. Go back and watch the first Avengers. It's a great film, and it gets better on repeated viewings. Dark Knight Rises might get a tiny bit worse and then even out. Amazing Spider-Man, I liked it, but like I mentioned in my review for it, the CG does not look very good now compared to 10 years ago. So, what are your memories of the summer of 2012? Did you see all three of these films, and which one did you enjoy the most back then? And has your opinion changed? Let me know. I look forward to reading your comments. Take care.